So in the previous lesson, we looked at the homepage and saw how we could make that more SEO friendly. In this video, let's focus exclusively on the individual add-on page and see how we can make this better for search engines. So again, let's start by disabling the styles. Go to the Develop menu and disable styles. And then we'll get a good picture of how this page is going to be indexed. So as with all the pages, we've got our site title or our site logo and the navigation for our site. Next up, we've got an icon for this page, then the header, and then the descriptive text. So we're off to a good start, but we don't really have many or any of the keywords that we want to be found for. Or we might have one which would be Foundry. So when someone searches for RapidWeaver Foundry add-on, we've got that one keyword there. But I think we can be doing a lot better. And in cases of your own site, as I've mentioned a lot, you want to be getting those keywords that you want to be found for high up in the page and specifically in the H1 of your content. So with that in mind, let's go to RapidWeaver. And we're on the Foundry page here, so we'll go to edit mode. And to start with, we'll look at the header. So in this case, I would leave it as Foundry. So if I actually go to the live site and just re-enable the styles, you'll see here we do just have Foundry and then the description for the add-on. Now this is because I didn't want to keyword stuff the content. I didn't want to put Foundry, RapidWeaver add-on or RapidWeaver stack, anything like that, because it would just confuse the content. People already know that they're on the RapidWeaver community site and they're browsing for add-ons. They don't need to be reminded that this is the Foundry RapidWeaver stack. And also that is not the name of the add-on. The add-on name is simply Foundry. So that's why I only have the add-on name there. For your site, you're very likely going to want to add your keywords into the H1 heading of your content. But I wanted to mention that in some cases, you won't want to do that because it will look spammy and it won't make sense to the visitors of your website. Okay, with that in mind, let's go back to the header and update this. So I would probably say if I were trying to get my keywords into the title here, I'd probably say Foundry RapidWeaver stack, like so. And we'll go back and refresh that. And there we're getting our keywords into there. So we want to be found for stack and RapidWeaver and specifically Foundry. We'll leave the description as is because it does a good job of describing what information the user can find out about on this page. And it also has a few of our keywords. So RapidWeaver, responsive sites, building, powerful, things like this. These are all associated keywords that people would be using to find content on our site. So that's also important for you to think about, as I mentioned in the last video. Think about related words to your main keywords. So as I say, for our example site here, the RapidWeaver community, people would be searching for responsive sites. If they were looking for video tutorials, they might be searching for RapidWeaver responsive site tutorial or something like that. So all of these things, although this page is not specifically about RapidWeaver video tutorials, it does build up a picture that the content on our site is about responsive sites. It's about RapidWeaver. You can find free-form frameworks, drag and drop ease, for example, here as well. All of these things, they're related keywords to our main keywords that we want to be found for. And that just builds up a picture, as I say, that the content and all the information on the site is all related to what we want to be found for. So you don't need to keyword stuff these descriptions. You just need to be smart about it and describe the content in a natural way. And usually these associated keywords will come naturally if you start to do that. Okay, with that said, let's move on to the main content area. So we have our gallery up next. So we'll go back to RapidWeaver and we'll have a look at how we can update these. So if we go to the stack settings, we want to ensure that we add alt text for each one of these images. And this is so that we describe these visual pieces of content in a text readable format to search engine bots. So we'll just do one of these together as an example. So I've put in Foundry is a rapid weaver stack allowing you to build responsive websites. So again, that's kind of describing the content of this image. So it's showing Foundry in action, building a responsive site inside of RapidWeaver. So we've got those keywords in this alt text. We've got Foundry, RapidWeaver, and stack, and again, building and responsive websites. So these are all related keywords again. So I'm mentioning that a lot in this video, but that is also important to think about. We're getting those related keywords into the content. Now, as I say, you're going to want to do this for all of the visual content on your site, such as the images. You want to add the alt text, as I say, to describe the content in a text readable format. And again, this is because it just builds up a picture of the content on your site and what it's all about. You're not going to see any massive gains by adding alt text to all of your images. You're not going to suddenly jump from page 10 to page 1 by doing this. But when you add up all of these small details that we're doing throughout this course, it gives a picture to search engine bots that your entire site and all the content on the site is about your chosen keywords or your chosen subject of content. Okay, once you've done your images, let's move on to the next section of content. So we've got our main content area here, and we have a heading that says Foundry RapidWeaver Stack Information. Now I know we filled that in a previous video, and I kind of did it as a first starting point to get you thinking about adding additional headers to separate your content up into defined sections. But that doesn't read very naturally. Foundry RapidWeaver Stack Information. We want this to read a little bit more naturally to help describe the content that's coming up. Again, you're probably not running a listing site like the community, but this can be applied to either static content or blogs as well. What we want to do is just do a summary of the content that's about to come here. So if you have a blog, for example, you could use the summary field to describe your entire blog post in a little bit more detail. Or if you just have some static content, so this is more of a small business site where you offer whatever services your company does, what you would do here is use this header to describe your service in a little bit more detail, trying to get some of those additional keywords in there. So with that in mind, let's go to the header here. And what I would put for this example is something like, the Foundry stack for RapidWeaver is a popular free-form framework that allows you to build responsive websites. So again, if we go back and refresh, there we can see that's not too long. It's getting a little bit wordy. I wouldn't want to go any longer than this. I might even be inclined to remove the last section there that allows you to build responsive sites. Might just keep it as that title there. We're not going to get penalized for having a longer content heading here, but we don't want it to get too wordy and too keyword heavy either. But I think this works pretty well. We've got our keywords again in here. Keep stressing that, get your keywords into your headings. So RapidWeaver, Foundry, frameworks, things like this, responsive websites. Again, all building up a picture of the content on your site, what it's all about, and it's helping the search engine bots index this content nicely. Okay, obviously below there, this is a description of the add-on and what it's all about. On your site, as I say, if this is a service, you'd go into more detail. You would list out what you offer, how you do that, all the different terms and services. Whatever it is for your content, you would go into more detail in this area here. Okay, next up we have our sidebar here. So this is basically some supporting content and some other links to help reaffirm that the content on this page is all about Foundry. So we have a buy now link. Now that would go off to the Elixir graphics store where you can buy Foundry. Now often website owners are scared to link off to other websites or external websites. Don't be scared to do that. It's only going to help you with regards to the search engines building up a picture of your content. If you're linking off to other relevant sites, so for example, where you can buy this add-on, as I say, it's only going to help you because it's reaffirming that the content on this page is all related to the Foundry RapidWeaver add-on. So as I say, a lot of people are scared to do that. They don't want to lose the visitor, or they don't want their visitor to go off to another site and not come back. But your main focus should not be about losing visitors. It should be about getting them onto your site in the first place. And obviously one of the key ways to do that is to be high up in the search engine results pages. And one way to help search engine bots understand the content on your page is by linking off to other relevant sites. So as I say, this would be the store where you can buy the add-on. Then we link off to the main Elixir graphics website. We have the product support, and we have Elixir's Twitter page as well. And then finally, we have a link to more add-ons by Elixir Graphics. So most of the supporting links on this page go off to external sites. But as I say, don't be scared to do that. It just helps search engine bots understand that the page content here is all related to one thing. Now again, just because the content here is on the left-hand side, in the HTML order, this is actually below the right-hand column here. And we talked about how to do that, how to reorder the content visually in previous videos. So if you want to learn how to do that, go back and watch that one. But if we disable the styles, we can see here when we scroll down, we have our subheading, we have our sub-content heading, then we have the details about that content, then we have our sidebar here. So a buy now button, and more information about the developer with those external links and the more by Elixir link there. So this is kind of the same as the home page. We have that main heading at the very top, then we have some content, we have a subheading, then we've got more details about that, and then we've got supporting links for this content. And this is where we can improve the content on this page. If we go to the live Foundry site on the RapidWeaver community, so we'll disable the styles. Here you can see the buy now button on our local site. On the live site, what we're actually saying is this is where you can get Foundry and this is how much it will cost. So this is a little bit more, not necessarily keyword rich, but it is describing the content in more detail to the user. And that's just more helpful for your visitor as well. They'll be more likely to come back to your site because they found the content or they found the information that they wanted from this visit. So with adding keywords to your links in mind, let's go back to our local site and see how we could improve upon this. So we'll go back to RapidWeaver. And again, the button just says buy now. On the live site, we have get Foundry. And then the price, which I think was $84.95. Something like that, doesn't really matter. Then below that we have links off to the developer website, product support, and the Twitter. So this works perfectly fine. We could add a couple of keywords. We could say the Elixir Graphics website, for example. If we want to add a couple of supporting keywords, depends on what you're linking to here. So I can't give you specific examples for your content. You're going to have to decide that for yourself. But the company name that we're linking off to, that might include a couple of keywords that you want to be found for, or it might just describe the content in a more useful way. Again, don't forget that when you're setting the link, make sure you set the title. So we can say visit, or actually we could say Elixir makes RapidWeaver add-ons, something like that. So again, we're getting a couple of the keywords and we're describing the content they'll find in more detail. So something like that. You might want to go into a bit more detail. We'll leave it as that for now. And we'll say product support. So again, we might want to put in Foundry support, something like that, just to get a keyword, or just to get a keyword into this link, something a little bit more relevant. And again, we want to set the title. So we'll say get support for Foundry, or we'll say get support for the Foundry RapidWeaver stack, something like that. And again, getting a couple more of those keywords in there. And then Elixir Graphics, again, when you're setting the link, we'll set the title, and we'll say read tweets by Elixir, a RapidWeaver add-on developer. like so. And then finally we have the More by Elixir button. Now that would link off to a page on our site. So we would set the link perhaps to the add-ons homepage. But obviously in real life that would only list out the add-ons by Elixir. We haven't created each one of these pages, so we're just using add-ons as an example. Again, you want to fill out the title. So you can say find RapidWeaver add-ons by Elixir. Again, just describing the content in more detail. So if we go back to Safari and refresh, that's our content updated. I think that will just about do it. As I say, we've added the keywords into our titles. We've got the supporting text. We've got our sub-content headings, and we've updated our links to be a little bit more keyword friendly. So once you've done the content for the page, let's have a look at how we can update the metadata behind that. And let's start with the browser title. So right now we have Foundry by Elixir, Stacks, Add-ons, RapidWeaver Community. I would say if you're using a listing site or a blogging site or something like that, this works pretty well. It does divide the content up into defined sections. So as I mentioned in the previous videos, if you have defined sections just for the add-ons, just for the stacks, and then the individual add-on, this works perfectly well. But the only thing I feel where this gets let down or where this doesn't look quite as good is when the page is displayed in search engine results. I like to have something that reads a little bit more naturally and that just looks nicer. So as you can see here on the live site, I've gone for Foundry RapidWeaver Stack by Elixir on the RapidWeaver community, rather than having these pipe characters and dividing it up into these defined sections. I've gone for something that reads more naturally. And as I say, this is simply because of the way I wanted it displayed in search engine results. So if I were to search for RapidWeaver Foundry add-on, obviously the Elixir graphics page comes up first, and then we get to the community site here. And that reads a lot nicer. When someone gets to our result, they're going to say, okay, Foundry RapidWeaver Stack by Elixir. They know they're going to find out more information about that. Whereas if we had the Foundry by Elixir, Stacks, Add-ons, RapidWeaver Community, it just looks a bit more roboty. It doesn't feel very human. It just doesn't feel as nice as having something that just describes the content. So again, keep that in mind when you're updating the browser titles for your site. So what we will do is go to RapidWeaver and we will update the browser title to say Foundry RapidWeaver Stack by Elixir. And we say we are on the RapidWeaver community, like so. Okay, and as I say, I think that will read a lot nicer when it's displayed in search engine results pages, but we're obviously still getting those keywords that we want to be found for. Foundry, RapidWeaver Stack, and we're making sure that all of those keywords are at the beginning of the browser title. Okay, let's go and see how we could update the URL. So again, on the folder name, we're on the Foundry folder, so that's fine, but we are inside the Stacks page. And again, go back and watch the previous videos if you haven't done so yet and you're unsure what we're doing here. But essentially, we divided our content up into these defined sections. So we have add-ons, the type of add-on, and then the add-on name. So we would have stacks, themes, plugins, etc. And then we would have the individual add-on. So when we inspect the URL for this page, you'll see we have add-ons, stacks, and Foundry. And I think that works perfectly well. We've got all the keywords that we want to be found for there. We've got, obviously, apart from RapidWeaver, but as I mentioned in the URL video, if you purchase a URL that has one of your keywords in, you're going to win there. And that's exactly what we did on the community. We have RapidWeaver in the URL. So on the live site, we would have RapidWeaver, add-ons, stacks, and Foundry. So all of the main keywords that we want to be found for in the URL. We don't need to update this. This works perfectly well. So finally, let's have a look at the meta tag here. We haven't added a description yet. So what I would probably do is take this supporting text and just pop that into the description. Again, don't try and keyword stuff this. So long as it has your main keywords at least once in a natural way, then you're looking pretty good. The only thing I would probably do here is add the Foundry, RapidWeaver and Stacks and add-ons keywords at the beginning of the description before we add the description about the add-on. And that's just to ensure that we have those main keywords. What I would probably say is Foundry is a stack for RapidWeaver, and then I would put out the description about the actual add-on. Now you can see here we are over the 155 character limit, but as I mentioned in the meta tags video, it doesn't matter if you go over that limit. It's not a hard limit. You're not going to get penalized. It's much better to provide a full and complete description about the content that goes over 155 characters rather than trying to cram in a description under that limit. So we'll just leave it as that for now. And I think we'll just about wrap up this video here. Again, if you want to, you can go ahead and customize the social tags for each one of your pages or add any additional tags as we've already looked at in this course. So if we go back and refresh, and so I think that will do it for this video. Hopefully these last couple of videos have really hammered home what we learned in the first part of this course and given you some concrete examples of how you can apply it to the content on your own website. In the next video, we're going to look at the video tutorial section and talk about how a dynamic blogging system can help improve your SEO score.